Hello, and welcome to our yoga class. Today we're going to focus on awareness and control of the shoulder and the arm, and specifically how to spiral the arms. This is most important in weight-bearing, arm weight-bearing exercises and poses like downward facing dog, plank, but it also includes most of the standing poses where the arms are extended overhead become very difficult. So that's what we'll be focused on today. And we'll start off just bringing some awareness into this area of your body while we're still seated. So take your right arm and, as if you were pushing someone away, just extend, and then from the shoulder push forward so your shoulder comes forward. Then, keeping your arms straight, from the shoulder pull back, and then extend using from your core, extend, and then from the shoulder blade pull back. Now try turning the palm up. First turn your thumb up and then continue rotating, and as you do that, feel how the shoulder rolls out, and then turn the palm in and notice how the shoulder lifts up and rolls in with it. So try that a couple of times. Now the trick is to do this not by turning the hand, but from the shoulder. So try and duplicate the movement, but this time try to move the shoulder directly. Now if the hand moves with it, that's fine for now. Okay. Now try turning the palm up and then taking the arm back, or maybe bend the elbow and then take it back, and feel how the shoulder blade pulls into the spine back here. So the palm turns up, the elbow's bent, and then bringing the arm back. Now think about coming from the elbow and feel what happens in your back. Now think about coming from your shoulder, and then try to come from the shoulder blade. Pull the shoulder blade in. And as you turn the palm up, draw the shoulder blade down and lift the chest. Now, once you've activated that area, the question is, can you do that without taking the arm back? So try to keep that without changing anything back here. See if you can bring your arm forward and then float it out in front of you. Okay, try that on the opposite side. So first extend, reach forward. Don't let your chest come forward. Pull your chest back slightly, keep your chest stable, and then extend. And then with your left shoulder, draw back. Extend, draw back. Feel the shoulder blade slide out, away from the spine. Draw in and down slightly. Then rotating, turn the palm up and then down. And then try to really feel what the shoulder's doing. And then try to initiate the movement from the shoulder, even better from the shoulder blade. Now, bend the elbow a little bit, turn the palm up, take the elbow back, forward, back and forward, rotate the palm, and then try to find the shoulder blade area and hold steady as you float the arm in front of you. So as a tendency is the arm comes forward for the shoulder to come forward, and that's what we're trying to learn how to counter. Let that area rest for a few moments. Coming back to a comfortable seated position. Reconnecting with your breath. Smooth and fluid and deep and slow. And begin relaxing your face, your jaws, your lips, your tongue, your mouth. Fingers, hands, arms, and shoulders. Float the chest up, draw the base of the throat back, lengthen the back of the neck, and then softening and letting go of any effort without losing the alignment. And then very gently begin to float your head around, exploring range of free movement. Free movement is the movements of the neck and shoulders that are free without resistance. So we aren't really stretching here, we're just seeing how far can you float in any one direction without effort before you meet resistance. And then begin to go just a little bit further, just enough that you feel a very subtle sensation. If the sensation is easy to feel, back off a little bit. So the sensation you're creating is there if you look for it, but doesn't dominate your consciousness. And then experiment keeping it that level, just a very delicate, subtle stretch as you move your head around, turning, twisting. As you're doing this, think about lifting your chest forward and up, and taking your shoulder blades, drawing them in to the spine, drawing them down the back slightly as you continue to move your head around. So a little bit of consciousness in the upper back and shoulders. Take 4 or 5 more breaths. Coming back to center, rolling out the shoulders. And opening into a twist, leading with the right shoulder blade. Draw the shoulder blade around and down, lift the chest forward and up, cross the left hand over the knee, lifting, expanding, and rotating. Breathing into this position, 5 or 6 breaths. Then switching sides, coming back to center, leading with the left shoulder blade, drawing it around and down, lifting the chest forward and up, rotating, and then breathing deeply. Take a couple more complete breaths. Coming back to center, circling with the ribs, reversing. And then rolling out the shoulders. So as you come into a side stretch, let's play with the shoulders, just bringing a little more attention to that area. Take your right fingertips to the floor, and then take your left arm, reach it out in front of you, then draw the shoulder back so the shoulder blade hugs into the spine. Take your chest forward, and then slowly begin to raise your arm. Try not to twist your body as you do this. Try to keep your chest facing forward. Tendency will be for that left shoulder to go back as you're pushing into this. Then walk your right hand away slightly. Move your upper rib cage to the left. Flare the ribs. Draw the left shoulder back. And then try to draw the shoulder blade back and down as you lift up through the chest. Breathe into this. 3 or 4 more breaths. Again, trying to move from the shoulder blade or the shoulder rather than the elbow and the hand. 1 more breath. Coming back to center. Take your left fingertips to the floor. Float the right arm. Take your chest forward and up. Take the right shoulder back. And we want to hollow the inner armpit. So if that is a new action for you, try rotating your palm so that your little finger begins to move forward and the thumb begins to point behind you. And as you're doing that, the skin on the outside of your shoulder will roll forward and the inner armpit will draw back slightly. Draw the shoulder blade back and down, chest forward and up. Let that be your priority as you come into your side stretch on the second side. Walk the left hand away slightly. Move the upper rib cage to the right. Try and pick up a very gentle, pleasant stretch. But keep bringing your consciousness back to the shoulder blade and the shoulder. Your mind may be drawn to the hand and the elbow, and you may find yourself trying to create the movement by moving the hand. And the whole purpose of this exercise is to try and keep your awareness in the shoulder blade and the shoulder. Initiate the movement from there, even if the movement isn't as dramatic. Take a breath or two. Chest forward and up, the right shoulder back and down, hollowing the inner armpit. Coming back to center, circling with the ribs and reversing. Rolling out the shoulders. So one of the best positions to practice spiraling the arms is from table, coming onto your hands and knees. Plant your hands shoulder width, maybe an inch wider. Now first set up your hands, turn your little finger out, touch it to the sticky mat, and then slowly rotate your palm and allow the little finger to slip a little bit until you can bring your middle finger pointing straight ahead. The index finger will be turned in slightly and the thumb reaching around even further, so the skin between your fingers is stretching slightly. Do the same thing with both hands. Okay. Now there's two actions here that will supplement each other, and they also contradict each other. They create the spiral. One is the knuckle of the index finger pushing into the floor. And when you push through that point, the outside heel of your hand will start to come off the ground a little bit. So push down through the knuckle of the index until you feel the outside heel of your hand lifting slightly. So that's one action. Okay. Now the action is a little bit easier to see if we come upright. So as if you were going to do camel. Come upright, bring your arms out in front of you. Let's just do one arm at a time. First the left. Think about what you were doing on the floor, only this time allow your shoulder and your arm to spiral in. So you reach forward through the knuckle of the index finger and you rotate in, internally rotating the palm. And notice how your shoulder rolls as you do that. Now from the shoulder, pull back and then try to rotate from the shoulder until your hand starts to rotate up. Go back and forth. Spiral the hand in, and then draw the shoulder blade back and down. Spiral in, back and down. Try that with both hands. With the right hand, push forward and rotate in with the hand, and then pull back and externally rotate the shoulder. Go back and forth. Coming back to table. Spread the fingers wide, middle finger pointing straight ahead. Now do the first action, rotate in, so the knuckle of the index finger pushes into the floor, the heel of your hand starts to lift. Bend your elbows a little bit, and notice that your elbows probably go out to the side when you bend them. Now, keeping the elbows bent, begin to rotate until the elbows are pointing towards your knees. Imagine you're holding a basketball between the elbows. Keeping the elbows bent, squeeze the basketball. Now, as you do that, you may notice the knuckle of the index finger comes off the ground now. All the weight goes to the outside heel of the hand. So now we go back and forth. Emphasize pushing through the knuckle of the index finger. Emphasize squeezing the basketball. Now try to do both simultaneously. And press down into the floor with your palms. That is the action we want to find in downward dog. Now the trick is, can you maintain this while straightening the arms? It's a little bit harder. Push through the knuckle of the index finger, and then from the upper arm, externally rotate. And then cat-cow. Now, as you're practicing cat-cow, emphasize the action in the shoulders and the shoulder blades. Tuck the tailbone, round low back, mid back, upper back, tuck the chin, and then take your elbows, with them slightly bent, flare them out and away from you in order to open the upper back. Lift the tailbone, drop the belly, open the chest, look up, and then pull the elbows back and towards each other, the same action as if you were trying to squeeze a basketball. And then pull with your palms to get a little bit more action. On your own, 3 or 4 more breaths. Really trying to increase awareness, consciousness, movement in the shoulder blades. And back to neutral. Tuck the toes under, walk your hands in, lift the hips, standing forward bend. Either place your hands on your thighs, coming up a little higher, or if you prefer, you can hang into a deeper stretch. Both knees bent slightly. Bend the left knee a little more. Move the stretch into the right leg, and then adjust so it feels pleasant and healthy. And then bend the right knee, move the stretch into the left leg. Go side to side a few times. Take a few breaths. Balance the legs evenly. If it feels good, lean in for a deeper stretch. Take a breath or two. Stretch the exhale. And then when you're ready, roll up, letting your knees buckle, stacking the vertebrae. Standing with your feet hip width apart, outer edges parallel. Lift the pelvic floor, firm the abdomen, float the chest forward and up, base the throat back, lengthen the back of the neck, and keep the abdomen firm. Sink the tailbone as you pull back just below the sternum. Broaden through the shoulders. Take a breath or two. Vinyasa Sun Salutation. Feet a little closer together. Check your feet for symmetry and alignment. Spread the toes wide. If you know how to spiral the legs, you can go ahead and include that action from prayer position. First an overhead stretch, and we'll hold. Now as you float the arms overhead, try to pull the belly back, chest forward, and then rather than taking your hands back, take your inner armpit back. Even better, think about taking your shoulder blades back and your chest forward. On your next exhale, we'll come down halfway. Reach your hips back slightly, drop your hands to your thighs, flat back. On your inhale, bend the knees, slip the hips under you, float the arms overhead, and then once again, lift the pelvic floor, firm the abdomen, chest forward and up, inner armpits back and down. On your own, 5 or 10 repetitions. Emphasize the overhead stretch with each repetition. Rolling up and stretching on the inhale. Leaning into the exhale. Couple more times. Hold your next overhead stretch. Sink the tailbone, lift the chest, hollow the inner armpits. Now bend your elbows a little bit and notice, do they bend out, or when you bend them, are they pointing forward? So we want to rotate as if you're grabbing that basketball between bent elbows, and then keeping that, take the shoulders back, the chest forward. Then straighten the arms without losing that rotation in the shoulder. Add a side stretch, lift the left heel, flare the right ribs. Lift the right heel, flare the left ribs. Go side to side. Come back to center, a little bit of a back bend. Supported forward bend. Wait to see how your back feels, and if you prefer, release into a full forward bend. Take a breath or two. And then when you're ready, buckle the knees, roll back up to standing. So now we'll work either with a wall or a coffee table or a couch. A wall will be a little better for this if you have access to a flat space. And you're going to stand close enough that you can reach the wall without falling forward. Plant your feet, spread the toes, and then place your hands level with the shoulders. Spread the fingers wide, the arms shoulder width. Then do the same thing we did earlier in table. Bend your elbows and then roll your elbows down and towards each other and then out and up. Now as you roll your elbows out and up, notice how your shoulders bunch up. Now roll down and notice how your shoulders move away from the ears. And that is the action we're looking for. Now step back 6 inches, reach the hips back. Imagine you're trying to hold on to the basketball and reach your hips back and begin to sink your chest. As you sink your chest down without dropping the basketball, lift your shoulder blades up, or the inner armpits up. So try to lift the shoulders up without dropping the basketball. Sink your chest down. Walk your feet back 6 inches more. Bend the knees a little. And just keep working that action with the elbows bent a little bit. And then come up, step forward, shake out. Roll out your shoulders. So now we're going to try that again, but this time we're going to include awareness of the internal rotation, internally rotating the palm as we're doing that. So plant your hands, bend the elbows, grab your basketball, and then push through the knuckle of the index finger and hold on to the basketball at the same time. Keeping that, step back a little bit, sink your chest. Keep the elbows bent slightly. Keep the elbows holding the basketball. Keep pushing through the knuckle of the index finger. And without losing any of those actions, let those be the most important thing. And then secondarily, reach the hips back a little bit. See if you can sink the chest and lift the shoulders. And this is the action of downward facing dog. It may take you a while. Sometimes it takes weeks or months for people to really take this into muscle memory. Take a breath or two, just working your way towards down dog. And then straighten your arms a little bit, but try to do the same rotation. When you're ready, come up. And then while we're at the wall, just lean back with your hips, walk your feet forward slightly. And then come into a forward bend. Draw the flesh of the sit bones up the wall. Sink the belly. If you notice any stretch in the back of the knees, bend the knees enough that you're comfortable. And that the stretch is in the belly of the muscles, not the ligaments behind the knee. 2 or 3 breaths. Stretch the exhale. One more breath. And coming back up. Going to give the shoulders a chance to rest a little bit as we work with chair. We'll stay at the wall. And now you're going to slide your hips down, keeping your back against the wall, and your knees directly above the heels. As you come down further, you may have to walk your feet forward a little bit more so that your knees stay directly above the heels. The hips should be a little bit higher than the knees. Now we want to feel a little fatigue in the quadriceps. At any point, if you start to get tired, that's a good thing. Wait a few more breaths. And then while you still have the ability to come up, don't wait too long. While you have the ability to come up, lean forward, plant your hands, and use your hands to help you come up. Keep your feet where they are, and then lean into a second forward bend. 3 or 4 breaths. Try that again. Come up, bend the knees, slide your hips down the wall. We're going to do 3 rounds of this. It's a great exercise for building strength in the quadriceps, which is one of the most important muscles to keep strong as we age. Five or 10 breaths. Remember, come up earlier if you need to. When you're ready to come up, lean forward, plant your hands on the wall. Use your hands to help you come up. Draw the flesh of the buttocks up the wall, walk your sit bones up, and then lean into your hamstring stretch. 3 or 4 breaths. Take a breath or two. One more repetition. If you're struggling a little bit, don't bend the knees as much and come up a little sooner. Five or 10, maybe 15 more breaths. This time we want to work to fatigue, but again, coming up soon enough that you can come up with control. When you're ready, lean forward, plant your hands, use the hands to help. Draw the flesh up the wall, hang into your forward bend. Breathe deep, stretch the exhale. If it feels good, lean in a little deeper, maybe bend the knees 1%. Measure success not by how far down you're reaching with your hands, but by the quality of the sensations you're creating. Creating healthy, pleasant sensations in the back of the legs without straining the back or anywhere else. Couple more breaths. Stretch the exhale. And then rolling back up, turning around. So this will be our last warm-up or preparation for down dog. And this time we'll straighten the arms, we'll step back further, we'll come down, and then from there we'll work into Virabhadrasana 3, but keeping our hands on the wall. So starting with your hands shoulder width, or for those of you that want to work harder, bring your hands down below the shoulders, maybe 6 inches. Shoulder width, spread the fingers wide, middle finger pointing straight up. Root through the knuckle of the index finger. Step back slightly. Bend the elbows, grip the basketball. Reach the hips back, sink your chest down. Lift the inner armpits up, broaden the upper back, straighten the arms without losing that. Now if you aren't sure, do a test. Bend the elbows, and the elbows should be pointing at the ground, not out to the side. Root through the knuckle of the index finger, lift the inner armpit, sink the chest. Even better, float the shoulder blades up, drop the chest down, spiral the arms. And then without losing that, float your right leg back and up. Try not to roll the hip up. Roll the right hip down as you lift the leg up. If that's too easy, walk your hands down a few inches. Sink your chest down a little deeper. Lift the shoulder blades, hollow the inner armpit. So the inner armpit lifts, the chest drops. The upper back broadens. And then if your elbows were bent, Imagine, squeeze your basketball. Take a breath or two, push through the knuckle of the index finger. Lift the inner armpits, broaden the upper back, grip the basketball. And then coming back to table. Second side. Float the left leg up, roll the left hip down. Root through the knuckle of the index finger. Lift the inner armpits and the shoulder blades. Sink the chest. The chest drops. Inner armpits and shoulder blades float up. The back broadens and you root through the knuckle of the index finger and grip the basketball. Two or three breaths. On the second side. And then coming down, walking your feet forward, bend the knees, and come back upright. Coming down to the floor now. Working next with a back roll. Fold your blanket long and thin. Starting at one edge, begin rolling. Try to keep the center of the roller as firm as possible. Starting with the roller in the upper back. Arms extended overhead. Every 5 or 10 breaths, reposition by lifting your hips, pushing yourself 1 inch over the roller, setting your hips down again. If you can't relax into any position, unroll the blanket. If it's too easy, roll the blanket up larger, maybe fold it in thirds. Five or 10 or 15 more breaths. If you need more time, you can always pause the video until you're ready to move on. When you're finished, lift the hips, remove the blanket, and then hug both knees, rock side to side. rolling to one side, coming up onto your hands and knees, and coming back to table. Set up your hand, shoulder width, spread the fingers wide with the middle finger pointing straight ahead. Root through the knuckle of the index finger, bend the elbows, grip the basketball, then try to straighten the arms without losing that. Now, tuck the toes under, lift the tailbone slightly so your low back is arched rather than rounding, and then lift your knees 1 inch off the ground, and then really re-establish the arms. Root through the knuckle of the index finger, grip the basketball, and then without losing that action, begin to take your chest towards your feet. Take your inner armpits away from the feet. The elbows can be bent 1%, just to help it make it easier to feel that spiral. If you feel the weight coming out of the knuckle of the index finger, emphasize that. Keep floating the inner armpits and your shoulder blades away from your feet, taking your chest towards the feet. And then anything else you know about down dog, you're free to work into the pose. 5 or 10 more breaths. But emphasize the shoulder blades, the chest, the arms, and the hands. Downward facing dog, and then transition to Cobra. Take a moment to rest if you need to. Bring your hands back behind the shoulders, touching the rib cage. Spread the fingers. Touch your forehead to the floor. Shrug the shoulders, lift the shoulders, find the shoulder blades, squeeze them together, draw them down the back, reach the chest forward, and then come up just part way. Press the feet down, reach the chest forward, draw your shoulder blades together and down the back, and then lift a little higher. 3 or 4 breaths. One more breath. Come back to table. Set up your arms. Bend the elbows. Squeeze the basketball. Root through the knuckle of the index finger. Tuck the toes. Lift the knees. Reach your hips back. Take your chest through. Float your inner armpits and your shoulder blades away from the feet. Take your chest towards the feet. Hold the basketball, root through the knuckle of the index finger. 5 or 10 breaths. Be our last down dog. When you're ready to relax, bring your right knee forward, slide the left leg back, coming into Pigeon. Experiment leaning left or right, repositioning the back leg until you find a position where your knee is not talking to you. There's no sensation from the knee joint, and you're creating some stretches somewhere along the outer thigh or the hips or into the buttocks. Anywhere in those 3 areas is fine. The sensation should be pleasant. Stretch your exhale and focus on relaxing. breathing and relaxing. 5 or 10 breaths. Take a couple more breaths on the first side. When you're ready, switch sides. Come back into down dog. Try to go through the same sequence. From table, bend the elbow, squeeze the basketball, root through the knuckle of the index finger. Tuck the toes, lift the knees, reach the hips back. Take your chest through towards your feet, float the inner armpit, shoulder blades away from your feet. Hug the basketball, root through the knuckle of the index finger, and then begin thinking of those not as separate actions, but as one action. Try to merge all of those into one sensation. Focus on the sensation. Feeling not separate sensations of the internal rotation of the palm and the shoulder blades, but one sensation. When you're ready, bring the left knee through for pigeon. Slide the right leg back. Finding a comfortable position that you can relax into. Start with a gentle stretch, wait, and then if the body relaxes after a few breaths, then work your way deeper. Five or 10 more breaths on the second side. When you're finished, come onto your back for spinal twist. Bring the right knee to your chest. Roll to your left. Hold the knee down. Try to lengthen through the left side of the rib cage, moving the ribs away from the pelvis. Anchor the knee. Or, if you prefer, bring both knees together and anchor the top knee with the left hand. Then slowly turning away. Now, very delicately, play with the same spiral. Bring your hand up as if you were pushing someone away with your palm. The hand rotates internally the shoulder externally, but 1% effort. So subtle, someone watching wouldn't even know or notice what you were doing, but just enough that you feel that you're doing it. In keeping that, create a sense of heaviness in the arm as you open into your twist. 5 or 10 breaths. Spiraling the arm. Take a breath or two. And then repeat on the second side, coming onto your back. Bring the left knee to your chest or both knees for an easier twist. Roll your legs to the right. With your right hand, hold the top knee, and then turning your head to the left. And then with your left arm, do the same thing. Try to internally rotate the palm, externally rotate the shoulder, 1% effort. Allow the arm to get heavy and relax into your twist. Five or 6 breaths. When you're finished, come back to center, hug both knees, rock side to side. Finishing with Shavasana. So take a few moments to make yourself comfortable. The knees can be bent or supported with a roller under your knees or straight. Pay particular attention to your shoulders and shoulder blades. So try a technique for setting up the shoulder blades. Roll to your left. Actually, bend your knees first. Roll to your left until your left shoulder blade is firm on the floor and the right shoulder blade is off the ground slightly. Then take your right shoulder blade and draw it in under you, as if you're trying to take your right elbow and slide it underneath your rib cage. Now roll to your right so the shoulder blade is anchored, and as the left shoulder blade comes off the ground, do the same thing. Try to squeeze your elbow underneath you and then set both shoulder blades on the floor. Now with your knees bent, lift your hips, lift your head, and then push yourself a ½ inch towards the wall behind you so your head moves closer to the wall. Then, keep the tailbone lifted and set the kidneys, the low back, down. If you aren't completely comfortable, make an adjustment until you are. The knees can stay bent or supported or extended. your attention to your breath. Feel the belly rise and fall. Allow the exhale to be a little longer without any effort. Notice the chest is more open in this position, the shoulder blades more firm on the ground. Relax your face, your jaws, your lips, your tongue, the root of the tongue, the throat. Fingers, hands, arms, and shoulders. Feet, ankles, calves, knees, and thighs. Loosen hips. Relax the buttocks. The low back, the belly, the kidneys, the ribs, the chest, the shoulders. The back of the neck, and soften the throat. Jaws, the lips, the tongue, the mouth. The eyeballs softening, melting into the back of your head. The eyelids, the eyebrows, the forehead. Temples soft and hollow. Relaxing the scalp and the crown. As you breathe in, imagine your body expanding, growing lighter and larger. On the exhale, your body becomes dense and heavy, melting into the earth. Imagine your consciousness expanding, infinitely vast and spacious as you breathe in. And on the exhale, coming back to center, settling back into your body. slowly, lazily. See if you can yawn. And then slowly, lazily unfurl the arms out to the sides or slightly overhead. And then stretching with your hips and your shoulders. Arching, twisting, bending. Roll to one side. Take a breath or two. Pushing up to sitting. Take a moment to get comfortable. So as you go further into yoga, your alignment becomes more important. If you're just doing yoga once a week for half an hour for a few months, and then you do something else for a few years, the alignment isn't as important. If you begin to do yoga every day or once a week, but for an hour or two, and you begin to do that or plan to do that for the rest of your life, then improper alignment can become problematic. Over time, it can cause improper wear on cartilage, on ligaments, imbalances, and it can start to actually cause problems. So the more serious you are about your yoga, the more you need to invest a little bit of time and energy on learning alignment. For some people, that is their bread and butter. The Iyengar community, that's what they love doing, is focusing on their alignment. For most yoga students, it's not something that we really enjoy doing as much. So what I recommend, if alignment isn't what you love, is think about it the same way a golfer might lift weights in order to prevent injury and to be a better golfer. However, I think that with a little practice and the right attitude, I think you'll find that you actually enjoy the learning of the alignment, but more importantly, once you have improved your alignment, your whole yoga routine feels better. It feels right. It takes your yoga to a whole new level. When you're trying to learn something new, especially something that is complex, that involves more than one element, okay, it can be very difficult to learn three things simultaneously. So the trick to get through that process is to break it down into its individual elements. For instance, the spiral in the shoulder is comprised of a rooting forward and internally rotating the palm, pulling back and externally rotating the shoulder, taking your chest forward and up, seating the shoulder blade in and down simultaneously. For most people, they can't learn all of those actions simultaneously, so until you do, go back and forth. Focus on one, focus on the other, focus on one, focus on other, and when it's in muscle memory, try to do both simultaneously. Okay? And then take two other elements that aren't connected and go back and forth. And then eventually what you want to start thinking about is not two separate actions, but one action, a spiral. Okay? You want to fuse the sensation. Create the sensation of doing both simultaneously, and then in your mind fuse it into one thought, one idea, one sensation, spiral the arms. Then you can add other elements like the core and the legs until finally you think down dog and you're rooting through the heels, lifting the arches, lifting the shins, engaging the quadriceps, hollowing the abdomen, lifting the pelvic floor, doing all those things we've been practicing with the shoulders. But all you actually thought was downward facing dog. And then you just do it all simultaneously. So that's where we want to eventually evolve our practice to. I'd like to thank you for joining me. I hope you have a wonderful week, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. And for those of you that are watching this live, 2 weeks from now we'll be having our first virtual Texas Yoga Retreat. This is our 20th year anniversary. And if you subscribe to my newsletter, I'll be giving, or I should have had an announcement in there, and you can follow a link to find out more information. But if not, just email me, charles@yogateacher.com, and I can give you more information about that. Hope you have a wonderful week. Namaste.